I feel Tony Khan and AEW made some mistakes on the past Dynamite. I'll discuss that and more next. Squared Circle Digest, Monday edition, coming up now. All right, Squared Circle Digest, Monday edition. We're going to look back at AEW Dynamite. Some of the areas I think was maybe a mistake made or more could have been done possibly on Dynamite. I took a little bit of time on this because I wanted to go back and look at a couple of things, because one of the things I thought was a mistake, I end up thinking, hey, kudos to that individual, and we'll discuss that a little later on. I want to get started. It was the main thing, of course. It was the video. It was the Young Bucks releasing the skirmish backstage at AEW All in London. And again, I kind of okay with the way they handled as far as the Young Bucks using it to further their feud with FTR, leading to AEW Dynasty for the AEW Tag Team Championships. The problem I have is this. Why announce it? Once you announce it, you put expectations on the video. The Young Bucks right now, as the EVPs in their little squirmy, ass gimmick that they're doing right now on Dynamite and Rampage and Collision, they could have just came out and been like, AEW discusses their loss at AEW All into FTR. Then they do what the promo was worked out very well. And then you can add shock value by being like, you want to know why we lost to FTR at AEW All in London? Because we had to handle this childish activity that happened in the back. Shock value. I get it. You wanted a ratings boost. You said you're going to release the footage. It gave you the spike you wanted. But if you would have done a shock value to this, now maybe you have people tune in because they don't want to miss something. I feel like the mistake that was made was you put expectations releasing that, saying, the promo saying the Young Bucks released the footage from AEW All in London. Now you put an expectation on it, whereas if you would have went with it with a storyline like you did, there's no expectations. People don't even expect you to release the footage. Now all of a sudden, boom, shock value. You've released it. Now the next time they say, hey, it's almost come to a thing where every time they want a boost in the ratings, man, I think I'd be able to talk like that without stumbling. I think I talk for a living. If you wanted a boost in the ratings, what do they always do? Tony Khan announcement next week. Tony Khan announcement Dynamite. Now you do this. It's becoming like the boy who cried wolf, right? Every time it's an announcement, it's a ratings boost, and sometimes the announcement's okay. Not recently. They haven't been even like, oh, okay, great, all right, yay. Right? I mean, that's the problem that I see with the whole, hey, we're releasing the video on Dynamite. There's expectations. And again, everybody wanted to see the video. But if you would have done the shock value, it's not like you let people, and then anybody that put it on their social media, you blocked, you copyrighted it, so nobody else could release it anyway. So what does it matter if you would have done the shock value? Now you're the only ones that have released it anyway. You're not letting anybody else release it anyways. So the shock value, at least you have people going next time like, maybe I should tune in just in case I don't miss something. I feel like you put expectations on it, and of course, at the end of the show, at the end of the day, Tony Schiavone's got his hand on his head like, oh, I've seen this before. Remember when the ratings war switched? Not that this was a ratings war, but Tony Schiavone was the one that said, oh, they put the title on Mankind. That'll put asses in the seats. And TV switched over, and WCW never recovered. You had the fans at the arena chanting CM Punk. I don't know that you accomplished what you wanted to, even by announcing it early. You got the spike for that bit. and then your ratings went down after that. So again, possibly next time, maybe shock value. Yes, Young Bucks discussed their loss at AEW All in London to FTR. While they're discussing it, you want to know why? Why we lost? Because as EVPs, we have to deal with this backstage childish antics before we even have to go out to wrestle. And now you've added that video in. I just don't know that you had to announce it, because once you announce it to me, you put expectations on it, which were expectations you were not going to be able to deliver, because everything on the video was already been talked about. And also it was Tony Khan acting emotional. And I feel like sometimes he gets in his emotional, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing that you do that, but there are times where it's like, why? What were you going to accomplish? Even like, we talked about in Squared Circle Digest, which you can catch at 7 p.m. every Tuesday right here on the Stanley Media House YouTube channel. What is it? What do you accomplish? Even if Jack Perry knocks CM Punk out in the footage, what does it accomplish being released so many days after? And I believe also in this, you're going to see that I believe Jack Perry's going to resurface back in AEW. If you watched any of the footage from New Japan Pro Wrestling this week, the pay-per-view they just had, it was in Chicago. He came out the scapegoat. He came out with the Chicago flag. He did the go to sleep mimic. He soaked in the whole thing. So the only person I believe that might have lost anything in this whole thing was AEW Dynamite show, because you had CM Punk being chanted on the show. You had announcers putting their hands in their heads like, what are we doing here? So obviously not everybody was on board with the decision, and it's emotional. You cannot run a business emotionally. And I know Tony Khan runs a lot of businesses. I just feel like sometimes he gets too emotional, and then somebody comes to him with an idea and he's like, go with it. And sometimes you just need to step back and be like, okay, what's the pros and what's the cons to this? Because to me, there wasn't a lot of pros to releasing that footage for AEW. Other than maybe you're furthering the Young Bucks, if you want to say that, and then maybe you're bringing back the scapegoat, Jack Perry. But was any of that needle movers for, you got up to 880? I guess that's good, right? Because you didn't reach that on the show or even after that segment. But I believe it could have been more of a shock value if the Bucks you said Young Bucks talk about their AEW All in London loss to FTR, and then they presented the footage. More of a shock value, because you're not gaining anything. And again, one man's opinion. And I say this also looking at the outside the ring, the in-ring stuff in AEW Dynamite was fantastic. The start of the show, Samoa Joe coming to the ring to take on Dustin Rhodes, gets attacked by Swerve. That match rescheduled to the main event. Now you bring out Adam Copeland and Penta, and then they tore the house down. It was a great match. You had a lot of good action on there. We'll discuss another match that I don't, there was a match on there where I was kind of like, I don't know about this, but again, the in-ring action is never an issue with AEW. Pay-per-views are never an issue. They hit every time. And this one upcoming, AEW Dynasty, no different. You look at the matches listed on AEW Dynasty, and this pay-per-view is going to be, shall I say, a banger. But does that mean everything's perfect? No. Does that mean there's things they can work on? 100%. Leading up to the pay-per-views and some of the things, right now, let's look. I think what they're doing with Will Ospreay and Daniel Bryan, The respect thing, the Daniel Bryan thing with respect has gone a little long, but again, it's leading to a good match. Will Ospreay, Bryan Danielson. I like the respect value that they give in the story they're telling, leading to that match. Swerve Joe, great buildup. That match, another match, great buildup. Going to. You've got Lion Hook. That's the match I was talking about. It was Lion Hook and Shibata taking on Shane Taylor Promotions. Like, what are we doing with Chris Jericho and Hook? Like, that's the one thing. Like, I'm happy that they're trying to invest more in the storytelling. I just don't know where that one's going. The Best Friends one has got me very intrigued. Chuck Taylor, what side is he going to choose? You have Trent Beretta. You know, he comes out. He's going to look like he's going to maybe go after Orange Cassidy. You've got Chuck Taylor jumps in the ring, kind of walks to the apron. Trent Beretta backs away. He's walking through the backstage area, comes to Chris Statlander, whispers something in her ear, walks away. Chris Statlander's just kind of staring at him. It's got me intrigued. I haven't invested yet, but it has me intrigued to see where they go. The Mercedes Moné, that was the next topic I was going to say, was kind of a mistake on this episode. I don't understand. And again, it's only a mistake if she's cleared. If she's not cleared to wrestle, I can understand why they are prolonging it and why they're attacking her in the dark instead of somebody attacking her to where you could see her. Because if you attacked her where you could see it, you can set up a match for Dynasty. It would be Mercedes Moné first AEW pay-per-view at Dynasty, even if it's Sky Blue, attacking her on Julia Hart's behalf. But with the lights out, we don't know. And I feel like when you watch Mercedes Moné, the only physical activity she's had so far is when she did her finisher on Julia Hart the first night. Nobody has done any physical activity at her. She did it to Julia Hart. Julia Hart kind of stood there, took the finish, and everything there. Nobody has touched Mercedes Moné. Is she 100% cleared for in-ring activity? If that's the case, then I understand why they're kind of prolonging it. If she is able and is 100% cleared, why not just show it being, and again, it could be Chris Statlander, it could be Sky Blue, it could be Julia Hart, it could be Will Nightingale, whoever it is. Now you have an opponent for her at AEW Dynasty, and she makes her AEW pay-per-view debut. So again, I believe this could be a mistake if Mercedes Moné is cleared. If she's not cleared, then you keep doing what they're doing. The other one I thought was a mistake was the Will Ospreay, because I heard when Triple H said, I did not hear the part where he said, and I quote, let me just get my thing, make sure I got it right here, where he said, you know, he does not, it was the part where Triple H is talking about the grind. And just because he's a big star elsewhere doesn't mean he can be a big star on the big time. And at first, I thought Triple H, when I was listening to it, I thought he was more referring to some of the performers that left WWE to go to AEW for the lighter schedule. I thought that's where that was aimed. But after going back through and listening to it again, I heard that part. And by all means, I believe the only person, because they did not, supposedly the talk was, and through Fightful, which I believe 100%, if you're not, you know, subscribed to Fightful Select, I would. But Fightful said that WWE had no talks with Okada. So they had no talks with Okada. The only two that they would have had talks with was Mercedes Moné, who has been to the big time, because she was Sasha Banks in WWE, and Will Ospreay, who has not been to the big time. So those comments would have been aimed toward him. So kudos to Will Ospreay coming out there. Again, I am enjoying everything I'm watching Will Ospreay do. I knew 100% in ring was going to be never an issue. I mean, I'd heard him talk on the mic in New Japan, but it's a little bit different over there where you're in a billboard and you're talking to the reporters than when you're shooting a promo ringside. He's knocked it out of the park every time. The emotion he's showing, it's in getting you invested into who he is. And he came out and he called out Triple H on his things, and he's, in podcasts, he's already said the reason why he chose what he did. So I believe Triple H, slipped up on that one. Because again, if Will Ospreay said he took that because of a personal issue, nothing to do with schedules, nothing to do with whatever, it was a personal decision that he made along with his family, then you can't fault the man for that. But the one thing I will say is this: Will Ospreay, you responded, shot was fired, you took the shot, you fired it back, move on. Move on to AEW Dynasty. Bryan Danielson knocked the match out of the park and just let everything go. That's it. It's done. Triple H fired a shot. You took it. You fired it back at him. Done. Move on. Don't sit here and harp on it. Move on and keep doing what you're doing. Because you and Swerve right now are probably the faces of AEW. With the way everything is going right now, you and Swerve are the faces of AEW. So those are, to me, the mistakes that were made by AEW and Tony Khan on AEW Dynamite. I did enjoy, as I said, the in-ring action. I thought they tried to do a little bit of a ratings ploy, putting Dustin in that spot, taking nothing away from Dustin. I would have loved a build-up. I would have loved Dustin beating some top contenders leading up to it. Again, I understand the promo and I understand everything, and it was a contenders match and everything there, but I would have more enjoyed Dustin getting the Dynamite time and beating, some up and comers, or however you want to look at it. I mean, again, you could put him in with Takeshita, you could have put him in with Hobbs, and you could have had people, you could have done some silly stuff and have Dustin win and build up. I felt like you're trying to jump on the whole Cody Rhodes winning at WrestleMania. Now Dustin on Saturday cuts the promo and he's getting the match on Dynamite. I love everything Dustin's done. I love everything he does. I just felt like that was more of a let's strike while the fire's hot, instead of, I thought what he deserves to me is more of a build. Because at the end of the day, you're going into AEW Dynasty. Do you honestly think Samoa Joe drops the title a week after they signed a contract in blood? I get it. It's pro wrestling. Anything can and will happen. But your AEW Dynasty pay-per-view main event is set. I get it. This is a contenders match, so he doesn't win the belt there. But now if you're a contender, you win that, and then what? So for the next 2 weeks, Dustin just sits and waits and takes on the winner of the main event at Dynasty. So then why couldn't this have been pushed out another week? Why couldn't Dustin fought a top contender, won the match, then get his contenders match against Samoa Joe this week? With the regards of him winning this week, the pay-per-view being Sunday, if I'm not mistaken, yes, Sunday. Next Wednesday on Dynamite, Dustin, if he wins, gets a shot at the champion next Wednesday. It could have been this Wednesday. Didn't have to be the Wednesday right after WrestleMania. So I felt like Dustin should have got a bigger build. Dustin deserves everything he's getting. He deserves a contender shot regardless. But I felt like it was more of a let's strike while the iron's hot with Cody winning at WrestleMania or just Cody being in WrestleMania. And it felt a little rushed. We'll discuss more of this with Frankie Fresco Tuesday nights. New time, 7 p.m. Stanley Media House YouTube channel. Check it out. Don't miss it. Be there.